were you born?
Well, you're born in Philadelphia.
You were born in Philadelphia?
Yeah,
And so you lived there all your life until you moved to Memphis, is that right?
pretty much.
Okay, good. And tell me about your family, your mom and dad, the family you grew up with.
Well, my father was in athletics. He owned the basketball team in Philadelphia. That's the first time I kind of got into the sports picture.
Okay.
And I met all the sports writers and so forth, which was a wonderful help.
Uh-huh.
Well, my dad was in athletics. He owned the basketball team in Philadelphia, the Neri, the old Eastern League. He himself couldn't participate because he had a bad accident and was permanently disabled with hip operations and everything, so he could no longer play. So then he found that the team in Philadelphia and coached it and spent 25 years, I guess, in it.
Oh, okay. And so that's how you got into athletics and sports, was that why?
Pretty much, yeah. And I went to high school and prep school, and we all had athletic teams, and I was involved in it.
Now, you mentioned prep school and high school. Is that two different schools that you went to?
Yeah, I went to high school in Philadelphia, and then I went to a prep school called Kiski in western Pennsylvania, and I went from there to Notre Dame.
Did you go, how long did you go to the prep school? Was it for 1 year or 2 years? 1 year? And what was the reason for going to the prep school?
I guess they offered me a scholarship. Kiski always had a good football team, and they wanted to continue and trying to bring as many football men in as possible.
Okay.
And
So you played football in high school and in prep school?
yeah,
What position did you play?
I was a halfback.
You were? Okay. And so then it came time to think about college, huh? And tell me, how did you first hear about Notre Dame? What's your first memory of Notre Dame?
Well, of course, at that time, if you like sports, everybody heard of Notre Dame, and I was playing high school football in Philadelphia, and one of their scouts came and talked to me and said he'd like to know each other better and so forth, and that produced a scholarship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you play football at Notre Dame, Bud?
Oh, yeah.
And what position did you play? Did you play
I was
halfback?
halfback.
Uh-huh.
I played baseball there, and my whole years at Notre Dame always were athletics.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What sticks out in your mind about the first time that you're on the campus at Notre Dame? What do you see? What sticks out in your mind?
well, I had been to a few universities around the country, but when I got to Notre Dame, it just was different to me. I mean, there was a great spirit, a great attitude about everything, and they treated me very nice, and I enjoyed my visit and accepted their I won a scholarship to Notre Dame and accepted it. And to this day, I'm delighted that I went there.
What makes you delighted about having gone to Notre Dame?
Well, first of all, I received a good education, which is, after all, it's the main reason you go to a school. Academically, it was wonderful. Every place I went in the country, I would be with people, and they'd say, "Where'd you go to school?" And when you say you went to Notre Dame, tell me about it. Is it true that Rockney was this or that? Yeah.
What did you major in? courses did you, what was your major when you were a student?
My major was trying to stay out of trouble.
What did you do after Notre Dame, Bud? After you graduated from Notre Dame?
I went into the Air Force about 2 weeks later.
Is that right? Two
Yeah.
weeks later?
And I was in the Air Force 3.5 years. I had 54 missions and bombers, and went on a lot of famous raids, molesting oil fields, and I spent 3 years in the Air Force.
What position were you in on the bomber?
I was the lead navigator of the 449th Bomb Group, and I wrote the book, which the navigators called "What's Your ETA?" Estimated Time of Arrival, and it was used by the navigators in the 15th Air Force.
Wow. And where were you based during this time?
I went to Benghazi, Africa, and a number of spots.
Different places, huh?
Yeah. And,
so you flew from Africa over the Mediterranean?
oh yeah.
And at 54 missions, but that's an awful lot. I understand that's a lot of missions.
The average, if you went in, it was 50 missions was good. But as I say, I was the group navigator, and we were trying hard to knock off some of the great targets, and plus the oil fields was one of the big ones. So,
what about being scared? Didn't you get scared?
the only people that scared me were women. You know, but you're not scared, but common sense tells you if you find you're going to Palestine or someplace tomorrow, you didn't sleep too well that night.
Yeah.
And thank goodness you managed to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were in Africa that whole time during the war?
Not the whole time, but I mean, I was in Benghazi quite a bit of time.
Okay.
And it was interesting going into a new country. You didn't know what they liked and what they didn't like. And
Right.
you didn't know who you could trust or who you couldn't trust. And but we all managed to get by when we were done.
Sure.
After I came back from overseas, I played football with the team, the 449th Bomb Group, and played some baseball with them too.
Baseball,
And then I wanted to get out because I had an offer in Philadelphia to play some sports, and that started my life in sports.
Sure. What was the offer in Philadelphia? What was that?
With the Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened with that? Did you play in the minor leagues then?
Yeah, I played in the minor leagues, and then I had a couple of offers. One of them was they offered me the athletic director's job at Villanova University. And Villanova wanted to have a national football team. They always had a football team, but they wanted one was going to be national. And I accepted that job and stayed with Villanova about 8 years, and we won quite a lot of games. And it took them to about 3 bowls, and which is interesting.
Yeah.
And I liked the bowl so much that when I left Villanova, I started my own bowl.
Yeah.
And which is quite an experience.
Tell me about that. Tell me about starting your own bowl.
Well, there was a stadium in Philadelphia, the municipal stadium, that was not being used. It seated 100,000 people. And I managed to get a national TV contract with ABC, and they wanted me to try to get the best teams possible for the television.
Tell me about the Grocery Bowl back in Philadelphia.
I brought the Liberty Bowl and signed up the stadium in Philadelphia, 100,000 seats. And that was kind of a problem as to how you were going to fill those seats. And to meet the obligations of the contract, you had to bring two top teams in.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a meeting with the Acme supermarkets in Philadelphia, and wound up, they bought the whole stadium.
They did.
100,000 seats.
How did you get them to do that?
Exaggerating, I guess. But
They bought groceries.
What did you exaggerate?
I can't tell you that. Yeah. But,
Sure you can.
That was something. We drew 100,000 the first game,
Uh-huh.
and naturally got a lot of national press out of it.
Sure.
Because they.
And that started us up. And every year we were drawing sellout crowds, and,
Yeah.
and we were able to bring big name teams in.
When did you meet your wife? Where did you meet her? Peggy.
In Philadelphia, she
Okay.
came from the same neighborhood.
Same neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I came back from the war, and I took over a family business. My father deceased, and wallpaper and paint business, and then that tied me up pretty much. But I had to get involved with local sports, so I got involved with the Philadelphia Eagles Pro, and Villanova offered me a good job.
Yeah.
I came athletic director, and it started me in the bowl business.
Now, how many kids did you have together, you and Peggy?
5 girls and 1 boy. And I must tell you, in front of my daughter, I have a wife and 5 daughters, and I never understood women. And so they're always one step ahead of me.
Uh-huh. No, that's a big family. You have grandchildren?
Yeah.
How many grandchildren do you have?
10.
How many?
10.
10.
Any great-grandchildren? Not yet. Not yet. That'll come. That'll come. Okay. All right, so...
When you say great grandchildren, you mean they stayed out of trouble?
yeah, right. Staying out of trouble. Somehow I think you probably figured out how to teach them how to do that, huh? Pretty good. You and Peggy did a pretty good job of that. Tell me about bringing the Liberty Bowl to Memphis. What led you to do that?
Well, in Philadelphia, it was where I started the bowl. It was tough with the Philadelphia Eagles and the pros, and they monopolized the newspaper, and it was tough trying to get ahead. So I had some offers from other cities, and I decided that maybe it would be good for me to bowl, to move to a place that would support the bowl.
Mhm.
And then I had to go get my good television contract, which at ABC offered me a nice contract, and that was kind of the start of things.
Okay. Okay. And what made you pick Memphis? What was so good about Memphis for the Liberty Bowl over another city?
Well, I had met through various things some fine people in Memphis and enjoyed their friendship, and couldn't think of a better place to go.
What was the toughest thing about building up the Liberty Bowl and making it a success here? What was the toughest thing that you had to do?
Well, the toughest thing was that there were 4 other bowls that got all the publicity. You know, the rose, the orange, the cotton, and so on. And you were lucky to be mentioned. And that was something you had to work on, and we were fortunate to manage to get some good pairings. And I had the connection at Notre Dame. I got Notre Dame to play, which was a big thing because then the television people all wanted to televise the game, and that started us off.
Right. So, what would you tell people, young people today, when they face challenges like this? What kind of advice would you give them to help them be successful in what they're trying to do in life?
What you have to do, number one, is to establish a good reputation in your area of being a good, decent, honest person, and try to keep building on it. And in our case, bringing a bowl to Philadelphia, they had never had a bowl, and right away you have a positive press working for you. And I got some of the men that I knew in the sports accepted the invitation. Bear Bryant was a friend of mine in Alabama, and Notre Dame came in. And when you bring teams like that in, the television people are pretty interested.
What are you most proud of, Bud, of all the things that you've done and accomplished in life? What would you say you're most proud of?
Well, the thing I'm quite proud of are the 5 girls. I don't want to say much about my daughter, but I had a wife and 5 daughters and a son, and I'm quite proud of them.
Going back to Notre Dame as an alum, you used to go back. You were on the board of directors of the Alumni Association, weren't you?
And I became national president of the alumni.
Tell us about that.
Well, after I got out, Notre Dame were nice enough to invite me to a lot of different functions, and I was always happy to go back. And one thing led to another, and they asked me if I'd be interested in heading an alumni, and I said certainly, and I did. I did that for 2 or 3 years.
What kind of help did you get in Memphis when you started the Liberty Bowl here? What did people do to help you be successful?
Well, I was invited here and met with the top people in Memphis that were interested in sports and so forth. And they assured me that Memphis would support the bowl and do everything they could to make it nice. And I believed them and decided to move it here. And I've never had a moment I didn't think what a good decision that was. I've been treated very nice here.
What's your favorite place on the Notre Dame campus? The grotto, the basilica, the main building, Touchdown Jesus, the stadium, Notre Dame Avenue.
You're naming them all.
You know, I remember talking to you about this kind of issue a long time ago about the Catholic identity of Notre Dame. And one of the big challenges that Notre Dame has is getting enough Catholic professors. It's not like when you and I went to school there where most of the faculty were Catholic. It's not true anymore. What would you say to Father Hesburgh or Father Jenkins about that, the importance of having of this Catholic identity of the school?
Well, to begin with, I am not normally in the position of advising Father Hesburgh. He's 10 times smarter than most people. And no, I let him run the academic side of the university. And I try to help a little bit with the athletics. Well, I think any school you go to is only important up to a point how much you want to cooperate with everything. But, and the alumni of Notre Dame are probably as active or more than almost any school I ever heard of.
Now, I talked to you many years ago about your travels in Russia. What can you tell me about going to Russia, about that trip? You spent quite a bit of time, you and Peggy spent quite a bit of time in Russia.
Well, when we went to Russia, the United States, we helped Russia in some of their problems.
And what did you do to help them when you were over there?
In Russia?
Yeah.
Well, try to, the best of your ability, to educate them in regard to how other big cities operate. And Russia were anxious to know more about the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They always admired the United States, but never were that friendly.
Yeah.
But common sense told them that it would be smart for them to learn as much about some other country as possible and signed a contract with Russia to play a series of exhibition games over there.
Okay.
And I had been over Russia in the war and met a lot of people there.
Okay.
And through that is how I took the team over there to play the Russian hockey team and so on.
Okay.
And the smart thing to do with when you get involved with foreign countries is to be as nice to them as possible.
Yes.
And sometimes people say, oh, I don't want to know them. That's stupid because you never, a year or two later, you never want them very much to be involved in something you're doing.
Yes.
And I felt that way about Russia. I got a lot of good things about Russia that I promoted a lot of different games in different parts of the country. And with the relationship I have with Russia, I was able to schedule them in a different country, which is unusual.
Yeah. You were in a scene where Pat O'Brien is playing Newt Rockney and giving a speech.
Yeah. And you're talking about my role in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I was in nothing leadership, but mob scenes.
Yeah.
The squad coming out before the game, and in the locker room, the coach talking to them. And
what's that like being an extra in a movie that's about a famous American like that? And here you were a student. What was that like?
Well, it's quite a thrill. It's quite an honor and all. And it's something that you like to talk to a lot of your friends and brag that you were in the movie, but you weren't going to become a big star playing that role.
Right. Here's a picture of you There's a picture of you with the priest. With
He was the president of Notre Dame.
yeah. Monk Malloy, right?
He was very respected.
Yeah, yeah. So, where were you guys there?
I was national president alumni.
Yeah,
And that was at some function they had. So.
sure.
But great memories.